Hey there, it's Gary Parrish. Welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, and leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, please smash the like button like you're Brandon Davies. You have consent, and if you haven't yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, please knock that out while you're here. And while you're doing that, let me remind you what we've got going on. It's called the Summer Shoot-Arounds, a series during which we're going to focus on 20 notable teams over a span of 10 weeks, 2 per week, 20 teams in 10 weeks. And we're doing the schools alphabetical order. We're more than halfway home. We've already knocked out Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Auburn, Baylor, Creighton, Duke, Gonzaga, Houston, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisville, and Michigan. Now we turn our attention to the ends, and that's North Carolina. That's the home of leaky black. Tar Heels went 29-10 last season, finished tied for second in the ACC. They got an 8th seed in the NCAA tournament, and then, woo boy, beat Marquette, Baylor, UCLA, St. Peter's, and Duke to reach the national title game where they lost to Kansas 72-6. That team, UNC's bringing back pretty much everybody who matters besides Brady Manick, which is why I've got the Tar Heels ranked second, the top 25-1. We'll see what Deadleg thinks of North Carolina next, but first, a word from our partners.
The UEFA Champions League. 9 months of heart-stopping, hold-your-breath exhilaration. While Mbappe shines in the city of lights, Benzema's racking up the hat tricks, and the Reds want Mo Magic in Liverpool. This ain't amateur hour. This is the best of the best of the best. This is the UEFA Champions League. Stream every match live on Paramount+.
All right, Deadleg, I've got UNC ranked second in the top 25-1 behind only Gonzaga. How are you feeling about Hubert Davis's Tar Heels? You that high on them? Do I have them too high? You low about right?
Well, how often do you check your mailbox? Are you a go to the mailbox every day kind of guy, Parrish? Are you the person that goes to the mailbox? Like here, me and my wife, it's kind of like I'm usually checking 75% of the time. What about you? How often do you go into the mailbox?
It's difficult because sometimes I think most often the mail is delivered at a time when I'm not home because of radio taking me away from home from about 3 o'clock in the afternoon to about 6:30 at night. So at that point, my kids might go out there and grab it, especially my little guy. He likes to go to the mailbox, but that's a problem because then people are like, "Hey, did you get that check?" No. But I'm sure it's in my kid's toy room. Can you please resend it? So I'd say if I'm home, I grab it, but I'm not always home to grab it.
Tried to do some, some good producing for the podcast for the visual element here, but it's failed. I made a Trader Joe's run last Thursday. Right next to the Trader Joe's is a UPS store. Mm-hmm. Dropped in, paid a cool $13. By the way, $13. I was like, "Can you get this to Mississippi by Monday, basically?" How many business days? Or like 2 business days. All right, so it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I put your lockdown leaky shirt in the mail.
Oh no!
So you were supposed to be wearing it. Now there's a chance. I guess there's a chance it hasn't arrived yet. But and you didn't text me, so I was thinking maybe he got it and he's just gonna hop on this feed and be wearing it.
Here's the truth. I was in New York last Thursday, Friday. Got home late Friday night.
I almost sent it to your hotel, but I didn't want to chance that. I didn't want to chance because it was only Connecticut to New York. I almost did that, but I was like, I don't want to send it to the hotel, and he's leaving.
Well, you're more likely to find me in that hotel than you are at my house some weeks. But so here's the thing. I got home late Friday night, and then we left first thing Saturday morning, weekend at the lake, got home. Yeah, I haven't looked in that mailbox. It is possible there's a leaky black t-shirt in that mailbox right now. Oh, I feel like I failed you.
You did, but it's okay. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button. Yours truly is wearing the lockdown leaky shirt. Parrish has an identical one, albeit in a smaller size, that will be arriving. And you know what? Maybe he wears it this week on our regularly scheduled episode, as opposed to this North Carolina specific episode. Would have loved to go, identical t-shirts, but here we are. Carolina, you got them too.
Yep.
As was revealed last week in our Candid Coaches series, Carolina voted to be the best team in the sport heading in by 100 coaches we polled across the country there. And if Carolina is indeed, I had this recently. I don't know if you caught this factoid or not. You probably didn't. It's all right. I had in
my mailbox. I haven't looked yet.
Yeah, this This was delivered digitally. In my column last week marked 68 days till the start of the regular season, so I did a whole 68 things to know. And UNC trivia time.
Okay, let's go.
All right, so UNC is tied with Duke for the most all-time preseason number one rankings in men's D1 history. How many times do you think Duke and Carolina have entered a season ranked number one in the AP Top 25?
How many times have Duke and North Carolina entered a season ranked first in the AP Top 25? I'm going to say I'm going to go with, that feels like it's been done 12 times.
Ooh, 9 apiece.
Okay.
9 apiece for Duke and Carolina.
I was rounding up to 12, though. I was rounding up to the nearest 12.
So if Carolina does get that preseason number one, it will hold the record for the most preseason number one rankings and break its tie with Duke. Bonus fun little trivia time for you. What year do you think was the last time Carolina was not ranked in the preseason? What year? What was the last time the Tar Heels did not enter a season with a 1 through 25 next to their name?
I would think it would. Oh man, it predates Roy.
I'm going to need a year.
You need a year.
It may or may not predate Roy.
Feels like it should predate Roy.
May or may not.
Okay. I'm going to go with I want to say it's never happened. I know it's happened. But I don't even know what a good guess be. I can't imagine Roy Williams not having a roster that wasn't worthy of being in the top 25 ever. So I'm going to predate Roy. I think Guthridge's teams on paper were great. I feel like Matt Doherty probably had preseason top 25 teams. Maybe I feel like Matt Doherty probably had preseason. I'm going to go 1979.
Woo! 1979. Cool kids never had the time. Incorrect. We're looking at 2006.
What?
Does not predate Roy. That is
they win the title?
Year after, apparently. This is according to College Poll Archive, which does a great job of tracking this stuff. You got freshman Tyler Hansbrough, freshman Danny Green, freshman Bobby Frazier, senior David Noel, junior Wes Miller, now the head coach of Cincinnati. I believe that team went 23-8, and exceeded preseason expectation. But yes, Carolina almost always ranked, rightfully so, in the preseason AP Top 25. But it has been a good while, and it will not be this year. UNC obviously needs to be considered a lock preseason top 5 team, and it's hard to make an argument against UNC being in the top 3 somewhere, either 1, 2, or 3. They are replacing Brady Manick with Pete Nance, who comes by way of Northwestern, who could be just as important, if not more important, of an offensive weapon for UNC. Certainly you think he can be a better defender than Manick was, although Manick did have some big moments there in the tournament. He really stepped up in a big way. Baycott, we are pre-taping this from when this episode will go up, so this will have already published on the site, but Armando Baycott finished 3rd in our candid coaches for who will be the best player in the sport this season. Drew Timme was 1, Sheboy was 2, and then Baycott was 3. So it was really like a 3-horse race. Some other guys got some votes, and you can go and check out that story and read about it. We'll probably talk about it on our regularly scheduled episode. But Baycott unquestionably will, or at least should be, a factor in the National Player of the Year race. But if he is not, and this is where I get to where UNC really should fit in nationally as a Final Four contender, national championship contender, will Caleb Love make the jump to All-American level kind of player? Can he do that? He had some big moments, had a huge shot, obviously, in the tournament. But, Carolina fans knew that last season. There were also frustrating moments as well. Personally, I found RJ Davis to be the more compelling, reliable player, 37% three-point shooter, aggressive point guard, not afraid to make a big play. If you watch Carolina from start to finish last season, there were definitely moments where it felt like he was the guy. RJ Davis was the guy that would pull UNC along, not Baycott, not Love, not Manick. I would not be shocked if RJ Davis by the end of the season wound up as the second most important player on this roster. Maybe it will be Love, maybe, but there's a lot to like, and I do like a lot about Davis's game. And then Leaky, big, long defensive savant. Maybe he gets the top 5 status in the country this year. Offensively, he's not tasked with a ton. I'll be interested to see if that role expands at all, Parrish. but he was actually the most efficient player on the team last year among, the regulars in the roster. He had a 120.50 rating according to KenPom. That was the most efficient clip of any serious minutes getter there. So yes, they bring the best, the best 5 back. They get Puff Johnson back, which is big. Seth Trimble's a name to know as a freshman. There's a lot to like here, and we see what Carolina can do with a different set of pressures in year 2 under Hubert Davis. Last year, was a different scenario altogether. They struggled against really good teams. They blew out bad teams, and they finally got it together, and they went on a memorable run. I mean, what Davis did in year 1 is just unbelievable. And now they set up here in a spot where this program and this fan base is very accustomed to being, as we mentioned before, preseason, number 1 level kind of team, Final Four aspirations, national championship aspirations. Things are going just fine so far in Hubert Davis's tenure.
I think everything you just said is kind of connected to each other. In the sense that Carolina started off bad. They were 8-3 after a 29-point loss to Kentucky and Las Vegas in the CBS Sports Classic. Like, they weren't. If you remember, we're supposed to have 4 teams there, the other 2 being Ohio State, UCLA. UNC and Kentucky were not supposed to play each other. They were supposed to play, I think Kentucky, Kentucky, UCLA, UNC, Ohio State. COVID knocks out Ohio State, knocks out UCLA, so they just get together. This doubleheader featuring 4 teams turns into, I think we called it a single header. North Carolina and Kentucky agreed to play each other even though they weren't supposed to, and Carolina didn't even compete. It was embarrassing. Like, it was an embarrassing loss. And people started asking big questions about Hubert, the direction of the program. Fairly or unfairly, these conversations were happening. Fast forward a little bit, they get blown out at Wake Forest. So now they're 12-6 overall, 4-3 in the ACC. And fast forward a little bit, 5 of their first 8 losses were by double digits. They had 5 losses on the season by at least 17 points. They were getting walloped. And then I think the real low point, they lose to Pitt at home on February 16th. And that dropped them to 18-8 overall, 10-5 in the ACC, 49th at KenPom. And according to most, on the wrong side of the bubble at that moment, or at the very least in real danger of missing the NCAA tournament. But as the season progressed, you mentioned RJ Davis, Caleb Love. It's not an accident that they both got better as the season progressed, because their roles were more identified as the season progressed. For much of the season, they were sharing point guard duties. But as the season grew deeper, and I give Hubert and that staff a lot of credit for this, they basically put the ball in RJ's hands and told Caleb Love, they just freed him up, moved him off the ball, and said, go be a scorer. And he was able to not have to worry about some of the things that you have to worry about when you're a primary ball handler, getting others involved, getting us into our this and that. He just go score. And he became one of the most incredible scorers in college basketball. He got 30 against UCLA in the Sweet 16. 27 of those came in the second half. He was bad in the national championship game. 5 of 24 from the field, 1 of 8 from 3. But in the final 4 games of the season, and I think you're going to find out this is going to be more of his role in this upcoming season, he was largely just a scorer. He averaged 21 shots per game in the final 4 games of the season, and became, even though Baycott ended up averaging more points per game on the season, Caleb Love was their biggest scorer down the stretch. And I think that's largely what he'll be asked to do in this upcoming season. They figured it out as last season progressed. Now they enter this season with clearly defined roles. Like, RJ Davis knows who he is and what he's supposed to do. Caleb Love now knows who he is and what he's supposed to do. Leaky Black, God bless him, knows what he is and what he's supposed to do. And Baycott knows what he is and what he's supposed to do. And what he is, by the way, and I don't, I guess I realize this, but it certainly doesn't get talked about enough, I don't think. People talk about Oscar Tshiebwe like he had this incredible, like statistical, incredible season. And he did. He averaged 17 points and 15 rebounds per game. But Baycott got 16 and 13. I mean, Tshiebwe, runaway national player of the year, and averaged 1 more point and 2 more rebounds per game than Armando Baycott. So Baycott was similarly statistically awesome, just not quite as. And that's why, it makes sense to me that Baycott would finish top 3 in our who's going to be the best player in college basketball poll that we conducted with the Candid Coaches series, because he was one of the very best last season. So like when you bring back 4 or 5 starters from a team that was really good and they all have clearly defined roles, I mean, that is a great place to start the season. Not even Gonzaga, which I have number 1, or Houston, which, is a betting market favorite with the Zags, have that many clearly defined roles heading into the season. And then the question becomes Pete Nance. I don't know that he's Brady Manic, but he did shoot 45% from 3 on 3.1 attempts per game last season at Northwestern. Now, Manic was 40% from 3 on 6.2 attempts per game. So Manic was a little more high volume than what Pete Nance has been, but I thought the staff was real smart. They recognized what Brady Manic brought to that team in terms of spacing and everything else, and they said, let's go find somebody who can theoretically do the same things. And they found him. And yeah, I think Carolina is going to be really good. And I know that because I've heard it all off season. Some people think that this is just a team that got hot in the tournament. That's not what this was. They got hot well before the tournament, to the extent that they got hot. And I actually think to say they got hot is to discount what they did. They didn't get hot. They got great. They didn't get hot. They got
just grew up. They grew up, man. I was sitting there literally courtside, Final K home game. I mean, that was the most impressive team performance I think I watched the entire season, regardless regular season, postseason. Like what Carolina did in that 40 minutes and how it adapted to that environment, just an insane, one-of-a-kind, can't be replicated type of environment where everyone presumed it was just going to be a Duke walkover, and they just blow the doors off, running away, winning that game. And no, they did not win the ACC auto bid. They got upended by Virginia Tech, I believe. I was there as well for that. Mm-hmm. So they did get bumped again, but still, if you really take the few games before the Duke win in the regular season and extend it into the tournament, I would agree. They didn't get hot. They really just grew up, found themselves, and really found the form. They might have exceeded a little bit of what we thought Carolina could be, back in mid-December when we were trying to figure out what the hell was going on and why things weren't clicking the way we thought they would.
Yeah, like getting hot is VCU going to the Final Four. Yeah. That was getting hot, because if you go back and look at the numbers, I can't remember them off the top of my head, but that VCU team, like, were making threes at an abnormally high rate in the tournament, like shooting it in a way they'd literally not done hardly at all in the regular season. That's getting hot. It's an incredible achievement, but we can reasonably and respectfully say that team just got hot in the bracket. North Carolina didn't get hot. They got good. If you go back to February 16th, after they fell to 18-8 overall, 10-5 in the ACC, and 49th at KenPom. From there, they went 11 next 12. Beat Duke twice, Virginia Tech, Baylor, UCLA, Marquette. From 217 through the end of the season, North Carolina ranked 3rd in the country at barttorvik.com. Behind only Kansas, the national champion, and Tech. That's a pretty significant sample size. That's a little less than 8-week span. It's a span of 13 games. They played 39 games. So that's 33% of their schedule. They played 33% of their schedule at an extremely high rate as one of the 3 best teams in the country. They ranked 5th in adjusted defensive efficiency in that stretch. And now they're bringing 4 of the 5 starters back from that team. Like I said, I've got Gonzaga number 1 in the top 25 and 1. But if AP voters want to make it North Carolina, you'll get no argument from me. It's an easy case to make.
Just want to see Love be more efficient. He was a 36% shooter from 3. Acceptable enough. Only 38% from 2. His O rating was 101.5. That's got to improve. And I think that it will. And then the question becomes, with all this returning talent, UNC was not a deep team last season. There's an understanding that it could be deeper, though. Trimble will be good. They got another freshman, Jalen Washington. Puff Johnson will definitely, the younger brother, Cam Johnson, he'll definitely get more minutes. Dontrez Styles, I would think, will get more minutes. I don't know. I would just keep an eye on that. DeMarco Dunn is another name to know. I don't think Carolina will be as thin. I don't think it'll be a 60 deep team. I'd be shocked if that was the case. I really think there's a chance it might be 9 deep, and that might be the key to it winning the ACC. This is a reasonable favorite to win its league, And there's a lot to like here. And, big picture, a lot of people that are going to listen to this episode, you're Carolina fans, so you're deeply familiar with it. But from a broad perspective, this is very good for college basketball. It's Carolina. Baycott's a preseason All-American. He, 6 double-doubles, what's an NCAA tournament record, 6 double-doubles, getting Carolina to a title game. You have familiar faces, Caleb Love. That's actually very, very good for the sport in general. Regular season win total. Let's keep it going. Here are the games to know, non-conference wise, GP. Nothing for Carolina. And then this is kind of the bummer about it, but it's just the way the schedule is going to break here. The potential preseason number 1 team in the country won't have a game worth watching until Thanksgiving. They'll play the day after Thanksgiving, really. On Thanksgiving, they'll play at PK 85. They play Portland. Then they'll either play Iowa State or Villanova. So that's the first challenge. We'll see what they get there. And then they're either going to get Oregon, UConn, Michigan State, or Alabama on the other side of the bracket. Then the only other games to note in the non-con for Carolina, they're going to be at Indiana November 30th, which is just a freaking-tastic ACC Big Ten matchup. They will play in the CBS Sports Classic as usual. That'll be in New York City. They're going to play Ohio State, which is the next team coming up on this summer shoot-around series. So stay tuned for that later this week. And then they have December 21st, they have Michigan in the Jumpman Invitational, the first one down in Charlotte. So again, Iowa State or Nova, then one of the other 4 teams on the PK 85, then the other 3 big ones at Indiana, Ohio State in New York City, and then Charlotte, they're going to play Michigan. The home aways, they're going to have to play twice against Duke, Notre Dame, Virginia. Those are probably the tournament teams. Away only, Florida State, Syracuse, Virginia Tech. Home onlys are BC, Georgia Tech, Miami, Clemson. They're doable. What is your regular season win total for your preseason number 2 team in the country, Gary Parrish?
Okay, so heading into the ACC tournament, they'll play 31 games. That's what you're telling me.
Yes, at least please let them play 31 games. That is the hope.
Yeah, I always count backwards. So here's where we're at. I've got them taking 1 non-league loss.
Oh, I think you're breaking the pattern there. I think you've been a 2 non-league loss guy for most of these. So okay,
yeah, I'm going to go 1 here. I don't know where it'll be. They'll just lose 1 because you're just going to.
They're losing at least 1 non-league game.
You'll just lose 1. You just will. Okay, then I'll put them at 4 conference losses. So I'm at 26-5 heading into the ACC tournament and on path to be a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament as outright ACC regular season champs.
I'm going to have them taking at least 2 non-league losses, and then ACC will be nice and competitive. This is a good team, but 5 losses isn't unthinkable. Let's see. Maybe you drop 1 at Duke, you drop 1 at Virginia, you drop 1, maybe you drop 1 at Syracuse or Virginia Tech. Maybe 1 gets by you at home. I'll go 24-7. A good 24-7, but I'll say 24-7 for the North Carolina Tar Heels. I knew we would differ on this, which is good. I'm saying lower, but I still think, I want to be clear here. I still think Carolina is going to be a top 5 team in the country, but they might take, a loss or 2 here. I don't know if I see them cruising. Not that 5 losses is cruising. I don't know. I'm not convinced they're going to win PK 85 at Indiana. That's a tough one. And then they can beat both Ohio State and Michigan. But yeah, I wanted to go 25-6 GP, but I couldn't get myself there. So I'll go 24 wins, 7 losses for UNC.
Now we have a producer who is a Carolina resident. So he's in it more than we are. Now to turn your mic on real quick, because I do want to get your perspective on this. Living in the state, where are people at on Hubert Davis last February? Where are people at on Hubert Davis right now?
It's a complete 180. People wanted him out right after that Pitt loss. So him turning it around, and everybody loves this team now. It's a complete 180. I am shocked by the complete love for this team. Granted, a Final Four national championship run does kind of help in that regard. But they love him now, and we'll see how much they love him if they start slow this year.
It is wild to think about. It was February 17th.
It was too aggressive. It was too aggressive.
It was February 17th, the morning after the loss. And if you would have polled North Carolina fans right now, it's like, we got a guy who inherited a top 25 team. We're now borderline top 50 at KenPom, maybe about to the NCAA tournament. And he enters this season with like big questions. They don't have a lot of patience like Carolina. And instead, he flips it, goes to the championship game. Now he's got arguably the best team in the country coming into a second season. Like nobody flipped anything more dramatically than Hubert did. And like good for him because people do like Hubert Davis. Like he's a genuinely nice man. I did think I don't want to have revisionist history here. When they're getting blown out by Kentucky and blown out by a lot of people, I thought it was reasonable to wonder, like, what we talk about all the time. You never know. Somebody can be the best assistant in the country, and then you slide over to that other seat, and sometimes it just doesn't work. I thought it was reasonable to wonder, if that was happening here. But boy, he turned it around, and this is I think I can't overstate this enough. It wasn't like we're just going to keep doing what we're doing, and you guys got to play a little harder. It wasn't none of that stuff. Sometimes coaches are like, if the guys would just buy in, they actually changed what they were doing. They said, what we're doing is not working. Let's change it. And they changed it and started working, coaching. And I give them all the credit in the world. And I couldn't be happier for Hubert and his staff. And now you're bringing back, tell me if this is true, the most recognizable college basketball team in terms of, hey, yeah, I know that guy, since the Florida team that won the national title the first game, the first
that's
year?
A good question. Most recognizable since the Florida group?
Like in the sense that you bring back a bunch of guys that people know their names and they're from an accomplished team, and now they're all back to try to do more or less what they did last season. We don't get this too often in college basketball. It's a direct.
It's different from a guy because Drew Timme is the most famous.
Yeah, but I'm talking about a collection, like a team.
Correct. I'm just making.
Like if we're talking about Gonzaga right now, if you were to ask,
it's not right.
A normal sports fan, hey, Gonzaga preseason, they might be preseason number one. Name the players. Go now. People go Drew Timme, right? They'd hit it. They'd hit the wall quickly. With Carolina, I think you could go. Baycott's back, right? Yeah. Caleb Love, sure. Leaky Black, sure. Like people know these people. That's not a common thing among great college basketball teams to get this many guys back from a team that literally played in the title game.
I don't know. I can't. You know what? Find us on social. Tweet us. Tweet the at Ion College Basketball Podcast Twitter account as well. You might be right that it's the most recognizable collective since Florida in 07.
I mean, there's maybe the Harrison twins coming back.
But like Wisconsin brought back Kaminsky and Decker, so they're there. Like Kentucky and Duke, the guys are leaving, so it doesn't really apply. Villanova had some guys between like 16 and 17 that would have maybe been in there. I feel like it might be Wisconsin. I don't know, Louisville maybe. But it's an interesting point that you bring up with all that, because yes, given the nature of the run, the school they play for, having Baycott make NCAA tournament history, Caleb Love hits a big shot, RJ Davis, there's something to be said for that. 4 guys on this roster are and like one of the guys literally gets mentioned on the National College Basketball Podcast like every single episode. So yeah, there is something to that. It might be maybe since the Gators, if not. I feel like maybe Wisconsin is the one that could be the more recent one, because there were guys that were on that team, and it wasn't just Kaminsky and Decker. You had Gosser, Nigel Hayes. Like I feel like that one is probably one, but Wisconsin not nearly as big as Carolina, and Florida was huge at that time. So it's certainly a good thought experiment.
Shouts to Devin Downey, shouts to Chester, South Carolina, shouts to Huck, shouts to Larnell. Thank you guys once again for listening to Ion College Basketball Podcast. If you and not subscribe, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Over to Apple, 5 stars. Leave a nice review. There's more of us. There's more of us than there are of them. That's still true. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do that while you're here. And we'll talk to you again real soon. Till then.